Alright, Ferrari, let's honor. Let's honor an unknown great personality. Hannah A.C. Badu Cudjoe. Hannah A.C. Badu Cudjoe, that's her name. Originally born Hannah A.C. Badu Cudjoe. Born sometime around December 1918. Born sometime around December 1918. Departed or exited the world sometime 9th March 1968. Hannah A.C. Badu Cudjoe. She will later be known as Hannah Dadson. Hannah Dadson. Hannah Dadson. Now, she was a prominent activist. Yeah, she was a prominent activist for for the Ghanaian independence in the 1940s and 1950s. Between the 1940s and 1950s, she was a proponent, a prominent activist for Ghanaian independence. She was one of the first high-profile female nationalists in the movement. Yeah, in the movement that was supposed to actually fight for the freedom of Ghana at that time, between the 1940s and 1950s. She was one of the first high-profile female nationalists in the movement. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Hannah A.C. Badu Cudjoe, or Hannah A.C. Badu Cudjoe. Born December 1918. She was the National Propaganda Secretary for the Convention People's Party. Yes. She was the National Propaganda Secretary for the Convention People's Party, CPP. She was a political activist during the government of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And remember, it is Ghana month, the month of March. It's Ghana month here on Y97.9. It's Ghana month on the Global Media Alliance platforms. Every Global Media Alliance platform dedicates this month to Ghana, and we call it the Ghana month. So yes, whoever played a role in making sure we have the Ghana we have today, we tell their stories today. We tell their stories this month to make sure we honor them enough for younger generations to pick up lessons from. So yes, she was a political activist during the government of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the man at the center of the independence of Ghana. She was also an active philanthropist. You know, a philanthropist is someone who does a lot of good to humanity, and that's why I told you the story of the great people we don't know of. Great people we don't know of, and most of them are good people. They save lives, they feed people, they actually groom great people we know of. We have a lot of great people we don't know about who have groomed and made the great people we know about. She was one of them. She's the reason we know Dr. Kwame. She's one of the people who fought for Kwame Nkrumah even when she was in prison. She has organized demonstrations before for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, for the release of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah when she was in prison. But today all we hear is Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Anytime we talk about the independence, we talk about Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, but we don't know that they were prominent activists, human beings like this woman behind Dr. Kwame. So that's how it is. We don't know much about her. We know much about Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, but she is the reason, one of the reasons, she's actually one of the people who made it possible for us to know so much about Dr. Kwame Nkrumah today, or to hear so much about Dr. Kwame Nkrumah today. And that is how it is. Most great people, in fact, greater people, make the great ones you know about. She was also a philanthropist, an active philanthropist, and worked to improve women's life in northern Ghana. Even though she was not born in the northern region, she wasn't a northerner. No, she had no ties with northerners, no blood ties, but she worked so hard to improve women's life in the northern region. For a woman like this, we should have her celebrated by the people of northern region every March. She has dedicated her life, worked so hard for the people of the northern region. Hannah had the ability to bring people together. She was born with the ability to mobilize people, organize people. And Kwame Nkrumah, spotting that in her, used that. Lately, we don't discover people, we fight people. Kwame Nkrumah had the wisdom to discover and make use of, make use of abilities of people. Today, you discover an ability, the ability of a person, and you fight it. Instead of making you stepping into it, they fight it. Kwame Nkrumah realized, no, she had the ability to mobilize people, bring people together, put people together. So Kwame Nkrumah capitalized on it. He dragged her into politics. She was able to convince others to support and fight for independence. A woman. She was able to convince her fellow women and even men to support and fight for independence. She helped Kwame Nkrumah in bringing people to join the CPP and support it. She once helped the Big Six when they were arrested by bringing people together to call for their release by the colonial masters. She, a woman, once helped the Big Six when they were arrested by bringing people together to call for the release by the colonial masters. She put pressure upon the colonial masters to release the Big Six when they were arrested at a point in time. A woman, Hannah Kudjoe, born near Takwa. She was born around Buzia, near Diskof, in the Ahanta district in the western region of the Gold Coast. That makes her an Ahanta woman. She was born in Buzia, near Diskof, in the Ahanta district in the western region of the Gold Coast, now Ghana, in December 1918, to Mr. and Mrs. John Peter Dodson of Buzia. She was born in Buzia near Diskof in the Ahanta district in the western region of Gold Coast, now Ghana, in December. She was born in December 1918 to one Mr. and Mrs. John Peter Dodson of Buzia. So she was actually born Hannah Dodson, but later became Hannah Kudjoe. But she was originally born Hannah Dodson because she was born to Mr. and Mrs. John Peter Dodson of Buzia. She was the youngest of 10 children. And yentume bebrisa, hey, one who call 10. Even the Despies and the Ibrahim Mamas are not giving birth to 10. So people are scared to give birth to 10 because they look at systems they put together, and they want to limit the number of kids they bring they bring on earth. They give birth to. But Cudjoe was the youngest of 10 children. She was the youngest of 10 children. Imagine if she hadn't been born. If her parents had said no, colonial masters no, waji bibi abodo, omaji bibi abosuntino, yawo bebre scientific show, so let's actually give birth to 3 people, 3 kids, 3 is enough, or the 5 is okay, and they give birth to 5. Hannah wouldn't have been born. For us to be benefiting from the impact of Hannah today. She wouldn't have been born because she was the youngest of 10 children. She was one of the privileged few girls that went to school in an era where few girls, went to school. That era, few girls went to school. Not too many girls went to school at that time, at that era. No, in that era, school wasn't for women, girls, no. But she was one of the very few privileged girls to have attended school at that time. She attended her elementary education at Buzia Methodist School, and completed a secondary Methodist School. She was here at secondary to wrap up to complete secondary Methodist School. After finishing school, she became a popular dressmaker in Takwa. Everybody knew her in Takwa at that time. She became a very popular dressmaker in Takwa, where she married one J.C. Cudjoe. That's where she got her Cudjoe and dropped the Dodson. She got married to J.C. Cudjoe and became Hannah A.C. Bedu Cudjoe. He was a manager of Abuntiaku gold mines near Takwa. Cudjoe, the husband of Hannah, was the manager of a gold mine in Takwa. That's how come she moved from Buzia to Takwa and became a popular dressmaker in Takwa. Their marriage did not last anyway. Their marriage did not last. She began living with her brother, E.K. Dodson, a prominent United Gold Coast Convention activist. She moved in to live with her brother when her marriage failed with Cudjoe. In June 1947, she had the chance of meeting Kwame Nkrumah when he lodged in their house when he made a trip to Takwa. When Kwame Nkrumah made a trip to Takwa in 1947, Kwame Nkrumah lodged in the house of E.K. Datsun, that's the brother of Hanna. You know, that was when she had the opportunity to meet Kwame Nkrumah for the very first time. This happened shortly after he had returned to Ghana in 1947 from studying abroad in the United States and Britain for over a decade in order to take up the position of the General Secretary of the United Gold Coast Convention, a political party formed by another son of the Western region, George Power Grant. George Power Grant. We take the legacy of Power Grant for granted in this country. Yes, even here in the Western region where he's from, we take the legacy of Power Grant for granted. Listen, the political party that brought Dr. Kwame Nkrumah back to Ghana, for him to eventually become the very first Prime Minister of Ghana and the very first President of Ghana, was formed by George Power Grant. Power Grant actually financed his travel back to Ghana. He brought him to fight the British colonists and grant Ghana the independence it has today, the independence we're enjoying today. Kwame Nkrumah convinced Hanna he convinced Hanna of the importance of women in politics. Kwame Nkrumah tried convincing Hanna, no man, listen, Hanna, women are very important in politics. Women can play critical roles in politics. Don't underestimate your abilities. Looking at you as a dressmaker, you've sewn dresses for almost, everybody in this community. People know you. Make use of your influence on them. Listen, pull them together. You can actually be a politician as a woman. Kwame Nkrumah made sure he pumped that idea. He pumped it into the mind of the lady. The lady sitting down and analyzing said, it can be true. She described how she met Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah inspired her entry into politics at an International Women's Day symposium at the Accra Community Center on 8th March 1986. On 8th March 1986, she described how she met Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and how Dr. Kwame Nkrumah inspired her entry into politics. And she did that, she told that story at an International Women's Day symposium in Accra at the Community Center on 8th March 1986. After her encounter with Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, this is how she met Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah actually lodged in her brother's home, and she was the woman in the house. So she was serving Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. So anytime she served Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah would engage her a bit, how are you, Hanna? Are you good, Hanna? During those mini petty engagements, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah got her attention and then they convinced her into politics. After the encounter with Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, she subsequently became a key supporter of the United Gold Coast Convention, that's the UGCC, and began raising support for the UGCC to the extent that when the Big Six were arrested, Cudjoe raised funds and led a campaign for their release. She was a founding member of the Committee of Youth Organizers, that's the CYO, within the UGCC, and was one of the 7 signatories who endorsed an April 1949 document that threatened a full split away from the UGCC if Kwame Nkrumah wasn't reinstated as the party's General Secretary. At the point in time, the party had in-house, internal problems, internal wranglings. And they took Dr. Kwame Nkrumah off the seat as the General Secretary. And she was one of the women who actually threatened the UGCC, telling the UGCC that, listen, we will split. We will break away if you don't reinstate Dr. Kwame Nkrumah as the General Secretary, the party's General Secretary. Unfortunately, Kwame Nkrumah was not reinstated. So there was a split, which brought the formation of the Convention People's Party, that's the CPP. As a keen supporter of his ideal, Hanna also moved along with Dr. Kwame Nkrumah after the split. She also left the UGCC. After all, you brought me into UGCC. You convinced me to start this political journey in the first place. So if you are no longer with the UGCC, Why should I be with the UGCC? So she followed Dr. Kwame Nkrumah to the newly formed CPP at the time. She was the only woman present when the decision to split was made. It was an all-men meeting. All men, she was the only woman in their midst when the decision to split was made or was taken. Cudjoe was also an active participant of the Positive Action, a campaign of mass civil disobedience, coupled with political protests that eventually led to the end of the colonial rule. She put together people, mobilized people to protest, campaign for mass civil disobedience. When they say civil disobedience, when civilians decide to disobey or laws of duty, laws of rulers. Civil disobedience, it happens mostly with protest demonstrations. So Cudjoe was also an active participant of the Positive Action, a campaign of mass civil disobedience coupled with political protest that eventually led to the end of colonial rule. Nkrumah's election victory and the formation of an independent nation was actually, worked for or supported by this woman. She inspired massive support for the CPP through this campaign. Cudjoe rose to become the organizer and the national propaganda secretary of the CPP. Yes, she rose to become the organizer and the national propaganda secretary of the CPP at the national level. In that role, she toured the country advocating the need for independence and organizing rallies, propagating the Nkrumah movement and the CPP. She was an extremely effective organizer, mobilizing many people, including women, to join the CPP. She is the reason CPP had a lot of followership at that time. She pulled a lot of women into the party at that time. The CPP eventually won the 1951 elections, and Kwame Nkrumah became the leader of the government business, After the 1951 elections, she focused more on her role in the party by growing the party's base and building support for the party. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Hannah Kudjoe. Hannah Kudjoe. It is Ghana Month and we're celebrating Ghanaian icons, iconic figures in the rule of the independence of this country, in the attainment of the independence of this country. And she is one of them, Hannah Kudjoe. After Ghana gained independence from the British, Cudjoe founded the All African Women's League, in 1957. That was after Ghana gained independence. She decided to form a different, organization, form another organization. So she founded the All Women's League in 1957, still focusing on the Pan-African views. When Kwame Nkrumah decided to go out of the borders of Ghana and think Pan-African and become a Pan-African, she followed suit. She did not limit her organizational skills to only Ghana. She decided to form the All Africa Women's League in 1951 to focus on Pan-African views, which later became the Ghana Women's League. Whilst working in her official roles with the CPP in the 1950s and 1960s, Cudjoe was also undertaking social welfare works within the northern regions of Ghana, teaching both young women and adults basic life skills in hygiene, homekeeping, dressing, dressmaking, and how to raise children. Hannah Tete. She later on became the national organizer for the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, whilst still undertaking her social welfare works in the northern region. In 1964, her social welfare program in the north was placed under the management of the National Committee Social Advancement under the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. She got them to put her program under that ministry. So whilst working at the ministry, She also became the secretary of Ghana Day nurseries, and worked to establish day nurseries and nursery schools throughout the country, alongside recruiting workers and teachers and providing amenities for the establishment of all those schools. So when people say she's the pioneer of the nursery education in this country, that's what they mean. That's what they mean. She made sure the nursery education became very, very organized. So people say, yeah, she was the very first person to even bring the nursery idea, the nursery education idea. Today, if your son or your daughter is in the nursery school and you don't know Hannah Tete, we are doing a great disservice to Hannah Tete, because she is the brain behind the nursery education in this country. Today, all our kids pass through nursery education, but we don't even know the one who brought the idea. We don't even know about the one who brought the idea of the nursery education. This is the woman, Hannah Kudjoe. She also championed an anti-nudity campaign in the Northern region. She was a dressmaker, and she realized at that time, so hey, nudity did not start today. All in the name of fashion. So yes, at that time she championed an anti-nudity program in the Northern region. Hey, so she also championed an anti-nudity campaign in the Northern region. This included the free distribution of clothing donated from other countries. So she solicited for funds, donation from other countries to actually donate clothing in Tadia to the people of the Northern region who didn't have adequate clothes to wear at that time. People were practically walking bare-chested, barefooted. So she decided to champion that campaign, the anti-nudity campaign in the Northern region. And this included the free distribution of clothing donated from other countries. She taught women hygienic practices. She taught women at that time hygiene practices, such as how to boil water before use or boil water before bathing children. Those days we didn't have pipe-borne water like that, so how to boil the dam water, the stream water from the stream before you use it to bathe your kids. She undertook this work largely independently of the new government, leading to disapproval from the government. The government disapproved her idea to actually undertake that program all alone, independently. So the government minimized her role. The government at that time, the Nkrumah government at that time, got angry over the fact that she decided to go independent with that particular program. So they minimized her role. And she also helped distribute food in times of famine and encouraged women to farm to grow their own food. She encouraged women to farm to grow their own food and distributed food in the time of famine. When you don't have food, she comes to give you food. Donate food in time of famine. After Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown by the military on 24th of February 1966, Cudjoe left the political scene like every CPP member did and returned to her private life, cool like that. And that's how CPP died. When Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown, all the supporters of the CPP, all the party, executives of the CPP, they all ran away. They all went into their cover. They all went into their shelves and went back into their private businesses, private lives, and left the CPP. She was one of them. When Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown by the military on the 24th of February 1966, Cudjoe left the political party, left the political scene like every other CPP member and returned to her private life. She continued with her philanthropic works in the Northern region through the 1970s and 1980s till she died in 1986. Till she died in 1986, she did not disappoint the people of the Northern region. She continued helping the people of the Northern region as a philanthropist with her philanthropic works. Her final scene in the public domain was when she addressed an International Women's Day symposium at the Accra Community Center on 8th March 1964, a night before she died. After that particular address, she died the next day. Hannah Kudjoe died on the 9th of March 1986. Her obituary published on 8th May 1986. And the obituary read, "She was a priceless gem who, in no small measure, contributed to the political emancipation of Ghana from the clutches of imperialism. The vacuum created by her demise is in spiritual terms, though temporary, will be difficult to fill." Her funeral took place in the Calvary Methodist Church in Accra on 6th July 1986. Kwame Nkrumah could not even attend her funeral. At that time, her funeral could not even be attended by the man who dragged her into politics. Today, we honor her. She is the reason every 6th of March we sing and jump in jubilation. Hannah Badu Kudjoe, AC Badu Cudjoe.